Well, thank you. I'm going to introduce Chris Hornberger. Chris is a longtime friend, was on the board, we figure, it was somewhere around 15 years ago through a mutual friend of ours. Chris is the primary of a company called Halifax Global, does strategic planning and works with both the non-for-profit sector quite a lot, actually, and with the for-profit sector. A good friend of Affirmative Ventures, understands the work that we do extremely well, was with the board for several years, helped us move things along. So without further ado, to move us into this panel/World Cafe discussion, Chris Hornberger.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am a loyal customer of Pet Stuff on the Go and have been for probably 20 years. Believe me, it's the best cat litter you can buy. It comes in recyclable containers. They pick them up, they drop them off, they open the containers for you. Like the only thing they don't do is clean the litter box. So if you're not already a customer, go for it. And I have been a friend of Affirmative Venture and a friend of Norman's for, I have to say it's got to be close to 25 years. When I left the board, I said, I doubt that I'm going to see the end of Norman, because there was this thing around the board that once you were one of Norman's people, you were always one of Norman's people. And it feels like every time I turn around, I'm one of Norman's people. So here we are today, and I'm delighted to be here. Our session this afternoon is twofold. We have 4 panelists who will be talking to us about, we've asked them to speak to a particular question, which we'll talk about. So the purpose of this, and the second part is a global cafe. We call it Global Cafe because I'm part of Halifax Global. The rest of you might call it World Cafe, but we prefer to call it Global Cafe. So the format is that we'll have about 5 minutes from each of our speakers, and then 15 minutes to answer 2 questions at the tables, and we'll do a report back. The purpose of this session is to encourage all of you and all of us to think differently about how to work together for better outcomes. So what I'd like to do first is introduce our panelists. I'm going to start on my far right. I'm a bit dyslexic, so I never know if it's my right or my left. So that is Joe Rutterham, and Joe is probably well known to many of you. If I could find his bio, I'll tell you who he is. He's the Executive Director of the Disability Support Program at the Department of Community Services. He's had other roles within government and apprenticeship, post-secondary disability services, and private career colleges. And he shared with me that he is married to his beautiful partner, Shelley, of 30 years. He has 3 daughters, and so far, 3 grandchildren. It sounds like you're aspiring to more. Do your daughters know about that? Then we have Dr. Linda Corey. Linda is involved in clinical practice, research training, participation in the regulation of psychologists in Nova Scotia, and an evolving interest in the administrative aspects of mental health and addictions services. She's currently the Senior Director of Mental Health and Addictions for Nova Scotia Health Authority, which involves leading the development and implementation of a provincial evidence-based model of service delivery based on population health needs. We then have Louise Bradley, who I don't think needs another introduction from us. We all know who Louise is. Terrific presentation. Thank you very much. And Dorothy Edom on my immediate right. She is a registered occupational therapist with a master's degree in health services administration. She has over 20 years experience in mental health and addictions and promoting recovery-oriented practice in psychosocial rehabilitation. She is currently working as the program lead with the Nova Scotia Health Authority Central Zone Addictions and Mental Health Program. And she's also an adjunct professor with the Faculty of Health Professions at Dalhousie University.